Scroll through social media and you will likely see one. The axolotl has become a massive online phenomenon and a highly sought-after captive pet. It is easy to see their appeal. They have a wide, permanent smile, and those delicate, frilly appendages fanning out from their heads are actually external gills. Behind that cute exterior is a biological heavyweight. The axolotl possesses one of the largest and most complex genetic codes discovered in any animal. When an axolotl loses a leg to a predator, it skips the scarring process entirely. It regrows the limb, bone, muscle, and skin perfectly intact. That regenerative power applies to vital organs too. They can completely rebuild severed portions of their spinal cord, of their brain, and their heart. This creates a bizarre contradiction. We have an animal hardwired to survive catastrophic physical trauma, yet in its natural habitat, it is rapidly vanishing. To understand the axolotl, you have to look at a biological quirk called neoteny. Instead of growing up, these amphibians retain their juvenile, larval features for their entire lives. This diagram outlines the difference. On the left, a typical salamander eventually drops its gills, develops lungs, and walks out of the water. On the right, the axolotl bypasses that step completely. Because they never go through that final stage of metamorphosis, axolotls never grow lungs. They are permanently locked into an underwater existence. Staying young forever provides a unique evolutionary path to survival, but it ties them absolutely to the water they swim in. If that specific environment degrades, they have no physical means of escape. When severely injured, the wound site immediately gathers a dense cluster of stem cells, forming a structure called a blastema. Inside, these undifferentiated cells rapidly organize. They become bone, then muscle, then fresh nerve tissue, perfectly rebuilding the missing structure. With that kind of cellular resilience, you might expect a relaxed, highly social creature. The internet certainly portrays them that way, but their disposition in nature is entirely different. Look at this wild-type axolotl. In their natural habitat, they are solitary, bottom-dwelling predators. They aggressively patrol their territory, fending off rivals and using chemical signals in the water to communicate rather than making sound. They evolved to be fiercely territorial survivors, adapted to fight off predators and heal severe wounds. But that biology only protects them against physical attacks, leaving them completely vulnerable to environmental collapse. That environmental collapse is happening right now in southern Mexico City. The Xochimilco Lake Complex is the last place on Earth where wild axolotls exist. Human development has carved what used to be an expansive, open wetland into a tight maze of canals, flanked immediately by island farms. Because farms sit right on the edge of the canals, agricultural runoff and pesticides bleed straight into the shallow water, destroying the water quality. Add the pressure of a massive, expanding urban center. Untreated sewage, industrial chemicals, and heavy plastic waste are discharged directly into these remaining waterways. Because of neoteny, the axolotl cannot breathe air. It cannot crawl onto the riverbank to find cleaner water. It has to sit in contamination. The evolutionary trait that keeps them perpetually young, their permanent aquatic state, has become an inescapable trap in a poisoned environment. The toxic pressure has taken a devastating toll. The wild axolotl population in Xochimilco has crashed over the last few decades, pushing the species to the absolute edge of extinction. We now face a fractured reality. Millions of captive axolotls live comfortably in glass tanks and laboratories around the globe, while the original wild population disappears. If the wild population dies out entirely, we lose the evolutionary context of their survival. Scientists studying axolotls for breakthroughs in human regenerative medicine need to understand how these creatures adapt and heal in nature, rather than strictly in sterile lab conditions. Within Xochimilco itself, the disappearance of a historical apex predator leaves a massive void, destabilizing a local food web that has functioned for centuries. Keeping an animal's DNA alive in an aquarium ensures the genetic code survives, but true conservation requires preserving the complex, fragile ecosystem that made the creature so extraordinary to begin with.